it's not that I disagree with Cap or Tony, but I do think Cap was in the right in one sense because I do think it wasn't Bucky's fault. He was being mind controlled.
I get it. I just don't like that we got another white Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true. I'm tired of that too as well. We've already gotten like 2 of them, you know?
Yeah.
Tobey and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. Peter Parker needs to be black. Do you remember that whole thing, Donald Glover? You know about all that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
That pisses me off so much that we never got anything from that.
Genuinely, no, that is so... Yeah, no, I wish he got his chance because now we're never going to see that. Granted, I do appreciate the nod in the Cross the Spider-Verse, so the show's love for that.
Yeah. And that the MCU gave him anything at all.
Mm-hmm, exactly. This movie's definitely not escapism Civil War, but it is an interesting one in a nutshell because I do think Alex Garland as a director is fascinating because I don't love his movies. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen all of them, so I can't really say movies. Yeah. I should say the one movie I have seen that he's made, which was Annihilation. Mm-hmm. That movie to me was interesting, but I never had the urge to revisit it. So I can't tell if that was just because of how I felt at the time. It has been like 5 years since I've seen it. Yeah. But this guy, he makes like very, very kind of weird, off-kilter movies that are really fascinating. Sometimes they can be very interesting thematically. It kind of feels like an Ari Aster mixed with like a Jonathan Nolan hybrid where it's like a weird world and stuff like that. But I don't always... This movie in particular, I think, has really interesting themes, and I do think it has the potential to be really fascinating in what it's exploring in terms of an America being divided, because the whole premise of it is basically that America is now at war with itself, and there are different factions like the Western Forces, and, you know, there's loyalty states and stuff like that. So now we're following these war photographers who are going through America in this war-torn country, and we're exploring the conflict within that, which I think can make for a really fascinating conversation. And there are times when this movie does go there, and I think visually especially, but I did struggle with... There's some flaws I have, but what did you think overall?
I think the movie had great scenes. There were very good scenes in the movie, and like... The problem is everything else in the movie. I'd say about 40% of the movie is like exciting ideas, like really, really cool camera work and just cinematography in general. Cool ideas. I think that a lot of those scenes that we see just feel out of place in context with the other 60% of the movie, which is kind of just repetitive war mush. That could be any war. There's nothing really you see in any of the actual scenes that really make you feel like there's any, strong hatred from one side to the other in the sense that you would kind of get from a movie like this, going about the American Civil War and what it would be like. You get these little shots of what it seems like to be on one side and to be on the other side, but most of the movie is revolving around characters, not around the actual conflict itself. And when you're going about a movie like the American Civil War in modern times, that's very much a concept that you hear and you want it to be explored.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, who's making this movie? What kind of shit are they going to be talking about here? Okay? Because obviously this feels like it would be a very politically charged movie.
Yeah.
Just no matter what. You're making a movie with this concept in the modern day election year.
Of all years.
Yeah. Crazy ass election year as well. Like,
bold enough as that is, yeah. This movie is interesting because I agree with you in that sense that it is really fascinating, but it doesn't feel like at any point it could it doesn't feel like it's really playing off of that. It feels like the movie it could take place in any war-torn country or at any point in a war that has actually happened. Yeah. Because all it is, you're following a war photographer. War photographers have existed throughout history. You could have made that with any other conflict, so it kind of feels like you're only using the setting of the American conflict to put the characters in scenarios rather than exploring what the scenarios could mean for us as people. And I think with the way our world is kind of right now, and I know keep politics out of YouTube when we're talking about a politically charged movie, but when the way that we are nowadays with the idea of exploring like conflict between people who shouldn't be fighting, this movie could have really done a good job at exploring that, but it feels like it's always on the cusp of that and just not getting there because it is more character driven, which is what the filmmaker wanted to do.
Yeah.
It just feels odd to put it in a setting like a Civil War without actually, exploring that. Like, I feel like this movie uses suggestive language or like hot button topics at times, but only to use it. Like, for example, there's a line where Kirsten Dunst's character, who's fantastic in the movie, but at the start of it, she basically goes off about something like, oh yes, ever since the Antifa massacres. And the movie doesn't really ever... I'm like, so what do you mean by that? What happened there? What caused those massacres? I'm not saying the movie has to pick a side, I just want it to explore the sides,
Yeah.
And when you use phrases like that, which is something very relevant to now, you might as well explore it more, to me.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's immediately, as soon as we left the theater, as I was thinking about it, I was like, this is such a character-driven movie. This movie, the only thing that really matters is basically watching trauma. You're watching developing trauma and seeing how it goes. You're seeing trauma from the past and seeing how it's aged over the years with certain characters. And I feel like this movie is such an exploration of character trauma. But you throw in the Civil War aspect of it, and it's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to focus on these characters having trauma? Not even from anything that's specifically Civil War based, but most of it is just from seeing general war imagery in real life and experiencing war. Like you said, it could have been any war.
Exactly.
Literally, you drop these characters in any war on the planet and have them go through the exact same things, and they'll probably have the exact same arcs.
Yeah, and arguably even I think, less rushed ending because of it, because you could actually kind of pull from just maybe having it be more of a slice of life because you would have photographer just working in a setting where we already know an historical context of. That way the movie doesn't have to create an entire new established world on top of making it a character-driven photography movie, because I think the movie is trying to explore more the idea of desensitization and how I think... Weirdly enough, the concept of photography is crazy because people have to report this stuff to get it for the news and to actually, so people know what's going on in the world. But on the flip of that, it is kind of insane, the concept of someone standing there filming something like a man getting burned alive and they don't do anything about it. Which, what does that do to the psychology of someone? That's really fascinating to explore, but I do think both themes are kind of fighting for the screen time of the movie, so none of them get fully time to be explored in that regard. Especially when you see where the movie's kind of going with the whole dynamic of Kirsten Dunst's character bonding with the younger characters. I don't know her name. What is her name by chance?
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you real quick. Jessie is the character. Actress is
Gotcha.
Kaylee Spaney.
Okay, so yeah, she's fantastic, and she is she has my favorite shot in the movie. I will say, involving.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're.
I already know what you're talking about. It's a great scene.
Yeah, it is the best scene of the movie, and it involves Jesse Plemons' character, and I won't spoil it, but he is... I think that was when the movie did a great job at really going as to, okay, this is exploring the mentality of someone who is so far driven into the label side of things and wanting to ask questions like, what kind of American are you, stuff like that. Stuff we saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
That whole scene, I wanted that to be the whole movie, almost. And
Yeah.
it feels like instead we never get time to live with any of these characters, because I think if the movie had characters that drove home the point of the mentalities it's trying to explore, that had more screen time than just 15 minutes, we would have time to really explore it, because this movie feels like it has a TV show format almost.
I was literally about to say, the movie feels like if it was a TV show and it had maybe a 6-episode run, hour-long episodes, I think it could have been way better developed.
Absolutely.
You could have the characters still go through the same arcs emotionally and with what they go through, but it gives you a lot more time to space out the world that they're in, so that you could understand a lot of the fear, a lot of the things that they feel and how they react to things in the movie. You're watching them react to something that they already live in, so it doesn't give you as the viewer a chance to connect with it in the same way that they do. It doesn't. It just doesn't hit emotionally very hard for me for most of the characters, and they go through bad things, and I'm like, wow, this is really upsetting. This is problematic. I feel that, but the characters themselves, it's just really hard to connect to them when you can't fully understand how they're feeling.
Yeah, especially a lot of time, and I think that would help if we knew what was going on in certain settings, because a lot of time it is kind of just juggling down to the characters being like, oh yeah, the fight over there is happening, and we hear gunfire in the background while people are talking, and I'm like, all right, this character's hitting on that character, but what's actually going on, and what's putting our photographers in this setting other than the fact that it's a war. And it is funny because it does feel like with this, it does take on that TV show kind of characteristic. And I think, yeah, you're right, like you were saying, as a show, it would have been really exciting to watch. It would have been something to like explore really and live in those certain moments more, because the structure of this movie kind of is bothersome to me, because there are certain moments where characters will, I would say, put themselves in dangerous scenarios where I don't really see that being in their character to do that. It doesn't really matter what scenario you're in, I'm sorry, when at any point you could get shot at just for driving out in public. I don't think you're going to go car surfing or car diving and putting yourself into the situation, like regarding how the characters get to the Jesse Plemons thing overall. I understand when the characters are being photographers and putting them in a scenario where they're in danger that way, because that happens in real life probably. I can't imagine how many photographers have gotten themselves and soldiers killed. Like, not always, like they're bad people, it's just like that stuff happens in war because there's a lot going on. So I understand that plot element of it when characters do that, but there's certain moments in this where characters are like, some of them are adrenaline junkies, but not all of them. And it feels like, for example, Kaylee Spain's character, Jessie, when she puts herself in a harrowing scenario because she decides to just go car surfing, or not car surfing, but like, jumping between cars in the middle of the road where you're in a war-torn country, stuff like that feels like it's just kind of out of character. And it feels like it was because the movie needed to get them to that location, rather than having it be authentic character doing that.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst's character Lee and Joel, who's played by Wagner Moura. You watch them, and it's obvious that they've been doing this for a long time in wars everywhere, and they've survived, and they've known how to do what they do and live for all these years. But then all the choices they make in the movie are like, how have you survived this long?
Yeah.
Like, you're making every choice to, like... I understand it's a dangerous life. Like, what you do is dangerous. Like, you're going to be in danger a lot of the time. But... like you said, it really feels like they're putting themselves into these situations, not because it's what they would actually do, but because they were like, ooh, this is going to look really good. Yeah. And it does look really good. It looks really good a lot of the time, but it's not driven for any purpose to look that way.
And that goes also, I think, because you were mentioning aesthetic and how it looks good. There are scenes where the shots are so beautiful and also so traumatic, and then the most tonally shifting music will play, and it takes you out of the scene, which I think there are moments where it really works. One scene that worked for me didn't work for you, but it's like we're kind of flipped. Oh, yeah. So like there's a few music changes for me that don't work during like a soldier scene where they're fighting each other. But I do think there's a beautiful scene regarding like the forest being on fire and stuff like that. That's a great scene, but I can see the tonal shifts because it's mixed for me. There's times where the music works, and there's times where the music is going for dramatic irony, but it's just kind of taking away from a dark scene that I think could have used just the music.
A lot of the transitions seemed very tonally strange to me. Like, the movie didn't quite know what it wanted to be in those parts. See, the problem with the forest scene to me was, for some reason, the music that was playing, it's supposed to be a very emotional moment, like an impactful moment for all the characters. We see what happens after that scene for all the characters and how it affects them. But
it's a very good low.
It just didn't feel serious to me. The drastic switch into it knocked me so off guard that it was hard for me to take it seriously. Yeah. When it was supposed to be like, not goofy, but it was supposed to be like quirky, I want to say.
Yeah, it comes across as quirky when I think it's going for like a kind of a sense of irony, where it's like this beautiful music over this genuinely incredible shot of a forest being on fire.
Oh, it's a beautiful shot.
It's so gorgeous, but it can feel, I imagine, off when you're trying to live in the moment, because you kind of think maybe if you played the scene, I'm not trying to down every music choice, but what if you played the scene without music and you just kind of lived in that scene where they're just looking into the fire, into that. Yeah. Like, for example, there's Dune Part 2, it's a little indie movie that came out this year. And it does all
like
of...
3.
Huh?
Like a 3.
Yeah. Love that movie. But if you... I genuinely do... Go watch Dune Part 2. But if you... There's a scene in that where... There's scenes... Or, not a scene, but there's scenes where it genuinely just kind of lets a moment sit and be quiet.
Yeah.
And then there are other moments when the music is there, but like those quieter moments hit that much harder as well. And I think this movie could have really utilized that a little more. Because I do love the moments where it is getting serious, and I do love the intent of so many scenes.
Yeah.
I just struggle with it sometimes.
I do think I just want to say some positives.
Yeah, because we're bagging on this. And we don't.
Yeah,
it's not the worst movie ever at all.
Yeah, no, I think it's like a good movie dragged down by boring mush in between the good scenes,
and that's what makes it all the more frustrating. Like, then you see the potential there because
it's like, this could be so good.
This is not like a Madam Web or like a movie that is not trying. It's all effort. That's what makes it so subjective. It's one of the subjective movies.
It feels like there's parts of the movie that are like could be taken out, but I still want the movie to be longer. You know, it's weird. It's like, okay, I wish there was more so we could be seeing more of this world. Mm-hmm. It feels like instead of the movie having to be longer, they could have just taken some of the scenes and shifted them and made them focus on a different part of the world.
Yeah.
You know, try to build up the setting of the movie more.
What, out of curiosity, what positives do you have about it?
Oh, I think the acting was really good all across the board.
Oh, yeah, so good. Perfect cast.
Oh, yeah.
Every single one.
I will say, with a certain actor popping up, I was like, why is this a big deal? It felt like a moment where we see the character and we're like, oh, wow, it's this actor. But why is it supposed to be a big reveal that it's this actor? Like, I love him.
It's definitely a moment that I think relies more on the knowledge of who the actor is than the actual point of what the character in it is representing. Yeah. Because you don't even get a line with them. You just
if it was a random actor who I didn't know and it was the exact same, mm-hmm. I'd be like, okay. Yeah. Like the ending was, in my opinion, not the greatest. It's hard to go and talk about it while being spoiler free, but like, I don't know. It hit the marks, I guess, on what it needed to wrap up a couple of the characters' stories.
It felt more checklist driven, as in, like, we've done the beats that are necessary. Now just cut. Yeah. And instead of being like the character, like without spoilers, it feels like, for me, the moment the characters reach their most fascinating point, it cuts off, which is probably the intent, which is why I think this is an ending that some people will think is brilliant.
Yeah.
I just found it more dissatisfying because I didn't find we got a smooth process getting there.
Yeah, no, it was very rapid.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of time. How many days is the movie, you think? Like, probably 3 or 4?
Like half a week or something. It feels
it's like 3. It feels like it's like a 3-day journey, and they all undergo such, like, dramatic growth. Mm. Except for, I do think that Joel, his character is just kind of, like, there.
He's odd.
The actor's great and did a good job with it. I just didn't think that they gave the character enough to actually matter in a serious way.
Yeah, like, I love his personality. And that's what makes the movie able to be where you're, like, still interested to see what happens to them, because their personalities are genuinely fascinating. Yeah. And they bounce off each other well. It just, there's some times where it feels like he is either adrenaline junkie, can do anything and handle it, and then sometimes he has his moments where he snaps. But then he's right back into, all right, we gotta move on. But there are some times where I feel like you care more here. I feel like you don't care here. It's interesting watching him bounce back and forth to that. I think to the viewer's discretion, whether that's inconsistent or not. I debate whether it is or not. I don't think it is fully, so I don't want to fully say if it's a complaint of mine. But it is. I do like his character a lot. I like all the characters.
Yeah. So, I also like all the characters. I just wish he had more... Not more character to him, just more time to matter in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes from the fact that they're bouncing from scenarios a lot, so it feels like you don't...
Yeah, it's like, I'm happy that we got, like, the two, like, I guess the way you consider the two main characters in the movie. I'm happy that we saw them so much. Yeah. Because their characters, their growths were really significant, if not a little rushed.
Yeah.
Like, what they go through matters, and it would change a person a lot. Mm. But what happens in the last, like, half hour of the movie, it's all very sudden. It kind of feels like it's out of nowhere. And I understand why a character goes through, like, a significant change and starts having these issues. But it just kind of feels like there's not enough to trigger it to start to happen. You know,
Uh-huh.
I understand that they're going for like it's all these years of like trauma adding up and kind of like breaking, but
Yeah, they could have found a smooth, I think, more interesting way if they had more time to just focus on those more intimate moments with the characters like that. It would work because it does feel like they're exploring, like the trauma of being a photographer and stuff like that in that scene. But the way the third act moves so quick to get to the point, I feel like the point kind of gets dropped a little bit, if that makes sense. But yeah.
yeah.
Overall, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life,
Yeah.
and I genuinely, I love it, and yeah, I had a lot of problems with it, but I like the intent. Apparently, this might be Alex Garland's last movie. He might be retiring after this, from what I've read online. Could be not true, but I don't know. But overall, I just, there are frustrating parts of it. I liked some of it, didn't like other parts.
Yeah.
Love the visuals. I think visually this is one of the best looking movies coming out all year, and it is worth seeing to figure out how you stand on it, because it is an important movie, I think.
Yeah. It's I think it's an important movie. 6 out of 10 Civil Wars.
6 out of 10 Civil Wars.
Yes.
I give it a 6. If I had to give it a number, I go 6, because it has all the I think visual packages there, whereas it visually does a lot of the legwork for building this world and stuff like that, and all of the writing is very intentional. I think there was great character moments, but just I wish we got to live in that more, because I think it does jump from scenario to scenario for the sake of it at times, which can make it feel rather rushed, and overall just not a fully complete experience for me.
Yeah. No, same here.
Yeah.
Not complete. Should have been a TV show.
Yeah.
Should have been a TV show.
That's good ranking, actually. Not complete, should have been a show.
Yeah, should have been
That's
a
the
show.
ranking. That's the slogan.
Yeah.
Put it on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
we're in the streaming universe now, right?
I know.
Like,
H24's gonna love us for this.
yeah, no.
Bye, guys. Thank you for watching Skydiver Reviews. I'll see you next time, and yeah.